by now, was indicted on structuring charges, or is going to go to trial, it appears, for structuring charges. Now, we've been talking about structuring with Kent Hovind. He was found guilty of structuring, which is taking out less than $10,000, intentionally removing it so that the IRS reporting doesn't kick in. Well, Dennis Hastert has been doing it for years to the tune of $3.5 million. Kent Hovind didn't even know that there was a structuring issue, as I recall, when he was doing it. So he didn't know that if you only take out $7,500 or $6,000 or whatever, you're not trying to mess with the government or the IRS. That's just what he needed to withdraw for whatever business they were conducting. But be that as it may, Dennis Hastert removed $3.5 million over a period of time to pay off someone in his hometown of Yorkville, Illinois. Dennis Hastert was the longest-running Speaker of the House. Amazing love and respect that he had from all of his people. He was seen as Mr. Nice Guy. Except for now, it appears that even on C-SPAN, someone called in from Yorkville, Pennsylvania, and said, "Mr. Hastert, do you remember me? I'm from Yorkville." Very difficult scenario to be had on air. And it appears he has in his closet some stuff that he is pretty embarrassed of, that he is now paying off $3.5 million to keep hidden. Was it extortion? I don't know. He's never claimed it was extortion. It may have just been a decision to where he was going to agree to pay someone for damages. But here's my question on Dennis Hastert, because do we believe anybody in the House or the Senate is now really squeaky clean? Do we believe anybody there is not with almost criminal intent? If they weren't that way when they began, I mean, answer this question. How did Dennis Hastert go into that position with less than $500,000? Well, he was a coach and a teacher, so you really don't have or shouldn't have that much money. And he came out of that position with $12 million. What was his second job is my question. If he gets paid a little over $200,000 for his job as Speaker of the House, where did he get $12 million over all that time? That's the question. Why do these people come out as absolute multimillionaires? And we're not supposed to ask that question because they are called honorable. We're supposed to respect them. They gave up all their time to their country. Oh, no, they didn't. They gave it to their pocketbook and for power. And why do you think everybody wants in that position? And why do you think we've got 9 candidates now and a 10th one coming online that wants to be president, that's willing to spend millions, if not $1 billion, to become president? I mean, we've got, of course, Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, Cruz, and now today, well, last Friday, I guess it was, George Pataki. Oh, now there's a name I can get behind. He entered the race, and now we've got Lindsey Graham entering the race. Oh, my gosh. I mean, all these people were never able to do anything positive for this, we the people, and yet they want to do more of it now. Think about it. Who, other than Rand Paul, has done anything of any importance? And, of course, I think that Rand Paul deserves every credit for the ceasing of the NSA surveillance, allegedly. But you know what bothers me right now, and I do think is a reasonable consideration, is the President of the United States is now saying, well, if there is a 9/11 event or a terrorist attack during this time, it will be Rand Paul's fault. Does that make you a little bit uncomfortable when they get that close to a threat? Maybe some might say a veiled threat, but a threat. And I think that's what people are looking at, is do they have something planned during this time to prove to the American people, see, you differ with the government, and that's what you get. We couldn't track those bad guy terrorists. Of course, they never have been able to, and none of the events have been thwarted as a result of the Patriot Act. But they sure have been able to surveil all of us. Now think about this. In the surveillance, let's say there's a real bad guy out there. If there was such a thing as a real terrorist in the United States. And so they tracked all of his phone calls for the past year. Then they track all of the phone calls of all of those people for the last year. Then they track the phone calls of all those people and those people for the past year. Now you're ending up in the thousands of phone calls. Just my opinion that perhaps it's overreaching, if nothing else. Anyway, remember when people found out with the whistleblower, NSA surveillance was going on, and everybody was like aghast. Well, it's that bad? It's horrible. And everybody was against the Patriot Act. And now everybody is for the Patriot Act except for Ron Paul, and they're saying, that horrible Ron Paul, how dare he not want us to be protected? They dialogue to a consensus of agreement. And if their talking points are supposed to say, you support the Patriot Act, guess what? They support the Patriot Act. Well, kudos to Ron Paul. Kudos to Ron Paul. Let me go back to Dennis Hastert for a second, because I got an email from Rudy Davis, and he was thanking us for being so kind to have Ken Hovind on the show a couple of times from prison. And he says that, and I wanted to update you, and he said that he just talked to Kent for a few minutes from the prison system, and they got cut off. I could not ask him about any future radio interviews, so he doesn't know if he'll be able to do that. Kent Hovind is currently in the Bureau of Prisons, Oklahoma Transfer Center, having sat 10 hours in a bus with chains on his hands, feet, and belly, and will be moved back to Yazoo, Mississippi prison. That's what their expectation is. He says, I will keep you up to date. God bless you and Catherine for your support of all of this. Catherine, of course, being the producer that goes through all the work to get him on the program. And he says, Rudy Davis says, by the way, isn't it amazing everyone is talking about structuring in the news with Dennis Hastert, but nobody in mainstream is mentioning the name of Kent Hovind? And think about this. How many structuring charges should there have been against Dennis Hastert? One for each withdrawal. But no. He only got one charge of structuring. And now they're coming to the aid of Dennis Hastert to protect him. I just thought that was interesting that Kent Hovind got a lot more charges against him. Anyway, Kent is scheduled to get out on August 9th now, 70-some days from now. And we're going to try and get an interview with him prior to his leaving, although I don't want to cause any problems for him, and I just am concerned that anything he might say might be held against him. I don't know that could be even possible. Yeah, right. Anyway, that's the story on Ken Hovind. John Kerry